Moving on, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Madame Charlotte Osei, has accused her deputy chairperson, Amadou Sule, of illegally signing unauthorized contracts worth over 40 million Ghana cedis without the knowledge and authorization of the chairperson between July to September 2015. According to her, payments were also made on these contracts in excess of her approval limits, and again, without her knowledge and authorization. She describes the action as illegal, criminal, and a breach of the policies of the Commission and the laws of Ghana. Now, all these were contained in a 17-page response to the petition against her that is seeking her impeachment. My colleague, Bernice Abobedu, has the details of her 17-page response. She joins me in the studio. Bernice.
Right.
What's the latest on that?
All right, Daniel. So as you mentioned, there's a 17-page response to the petition seeking for her impeachment. I'm just going to read some of her responses to the allegations. Now, one claim in the petition is that the political push of the chairperson, that's Madame Charlotte Osei, prior to the conduct of the 2016 general election, nearly pushed Ghana to the precipices. But for the action of technical and competent staff of the Commission, she could have plunged this country into civil war. Now, here is her response. Now, she says the petitioners would have to define what, quote, political posture, unquote, really is, which nearly pushed the country to civil war. Now, she adds that it's a witness fact that during the election, the chairperson, that's she, Madame Charlotte Osei, was in touch directly with the two main candidates in the presidential election in her capacity as returning officer. We know who these two main candidates are. Now, she says the then candidates are in a position to confirm this. So that's to say, if you doubt me, you can find out from them. And the chairperson remained in continuous contact with the hierarchy of the Ghana Police Service and the military until the final declaration of results. So, well, that's according to her. Now, she's saying, as an allegation supporting an impeachment process, this would be the first time that posture that could have had a certain effect that did not would be a supporting ground for a constitutional impeachment process.
Now, accusations were also made in that initial petition about STL and about that contract. What is she saying in her response?
Well, let me read the claim for those who may not be aware of the fine details. Now, the claim is that the Commission signed a contract with Supertech Limited, that STL, on the premise that the voters' registration exercise was going to be electoral area based. Upon assumption of office as the chairperson of the Commission, Mrs. Charlotte Osei unilaterally abrogated the said contract without recourse to the same commission that approved the earlier version of the contract. And now, this adding, the claim asks that she single-handedly renegotiated the contract with the vendor without involvement of the members of the commission, not even the deputies. Now, they claim that she then awarded the contract to the tune of $999,592 without going through tender, contrary to the Public Procurement Act. Now, her response is that the two deputy chairpersons, and we know who these are, that's a deputy chairperson in charge of operation, Amadou Sule, and deputy commissioner in charge of corporate affairs, Madame Georgino Pukwamankwa, signed two contracts with STL on the 6th of May 2015 for $22.3 million US, and that was for the BVR, and $16.4 million for the BVD, respectively. Now, she's attached copies to her response.
And that is the interesting thing about her response, because you can see she marks there that she has attachments of the documents backing her claim. There's an interesting legal opinion on these two, which I'll share with you very soon. But what are the other responses she gave?
Well, let me continue with the STL before I move to the other the response to the other claims. Now, she says the contracts contained no price breakdown and were and had been signed, and no price breakdown, and were signed against the 2016 budget of the Commission, which was unknown at the time. So she also raises some issues in her response. But she says, interestingly, STL has not complained about the abrogation of the contracts. She goes on to say it is amazing that persons who schemed to cause loss to the state, flout procurement laws with impunity, can then accuse another acting illegally. When the first contracts were signed, no one in the commission was involved in the negotiation. So it's quite a lengthy one. You can see that a lot of time was taken into this particular response, like you mentioned, with documents to back her response and claims. And another claim is that the chairperson unilaterally transferred district electoral officers she perceived to be pro-MPP to deprived areas prior to the 2016 general elections without the knowledge of the commission, contrary to administrative procedures. Now, listen to her response. She says the petitioners would have to show the basis for the perception that the district electoral officers transferred were pro-MPP, and is the allegation that only staff who are pro-other parties should be made to work in deprived areas? Interesting, isn't it? Now, she says, how are these deprived areas defined? That's another question she poses. And she says it will be helpful for the petitioners, if they exist, to show what action was taken and should have been taken against district electoral officers performing key functions and showing party biases, as they allege. She goes on to say that these officers were transferred because of threats made by political actors on their activities, which were likely to compromise the neutrality of the commission and the integrity of the elections. Now, she says it is within the powers of the chairperson to transfer district electoral officer either for purposes of protecting the lives of the staff or as the exigencies of the commission's work requires.
So let's go to the last claim, claim 28. That was quite interesting then. And you know, there was an interesting opinion that was put out on Facebook. I was referring to that earlier, by lawyer A. Sankoma. He was saying that, look, normally with petitions, you're not really required to provide evidence or back the facts that you put in the petition with claims, with evidence, because now it's going to be considered, and then if it will be investigated, evidence will be found. But in this case, where you are looking to impeach an Article 71 office holder, it is required, and he gave legal precedent, that you back it with evidence, because it is on the basis of that evidence that they will determine if a prima facie case can be found against that person. So, for instance, with Madame Loretta Lamte's case, remember there were about 8 petitions. 7 of them were shut down. Only 1 was maintained. That means that it's actually taken through a very rigorous process before a petition can be accepted in the first place. And interestingly, this petition did not have so much evidence backing it as a normal petition without an Article 71 holder would have. And in her response, she brings up all the evidence that she has.
It looks like she's taking a step further to prove her quote-unquote innocence, or to prove that those allegations are not true. But you mentioned the 28th claim that she responds to in this particular document that we have here. Now, she says that it is worth pointing out that the claim that while the chairperson is persistently accused of arrogance, because she was accused of being arrogant and taking unilateral decisions, there is ample evidence of extreme arrogance, ineptitude, and blatant breaches of the law by the deputy chairpersons. A few examples she gives here. She says the first is that the deputy chairperson has signed contracts worth over 40 million Ghana cedis without the knowledge and authorization of the chairperson between July to September 2015. And she says payments were also made on these contracts in excess of her approval limits. And again, without the knowledge and authorization of the chairperson. So while they are accusing her of arrogance, she's also trying to claim that these people are not going according to the process. They're not giving me my due respect as a chairperson, which could amount to insubordination. And She's saying that this is illegal, criminal, and a breach of the policies of the Commission and the laws of Ghana. The supporting document would be submitted to the relevant investigative agencies for their further action. So here again, apart from attaching documents to this particular response, she's willing to give more evidence to back what she has to say. Another one she mentions is that in June 2017, the annual leave of the deputy chairperson operations was approved by the deputy chairperson without recourse to the chairperson. That's she, Madame Charlotte Osei. And
so another chairperson approved the leave for their colleague.
For the colleague. So the deputy in charge of operations, Amadou Sule, approved the deputy chairperson in charge of corporate affairs leave without recourse to the chairperson and signed on behalf of her, she, Charlotte Osei, and then she claims that this is indeed the deputy chairperson has arrogated to herself the powers of the chairperson, convening commission meetings and taking other decisions in clear breach of the law.
This is getting murkier by the moment. I know that there is a lot more that we have to find out. An interesting element of this is nothing directly political has been impugning this. As in, this has not been linked to any political party, as was implied last week in the news. But of course, we still have to explore that further. Bernice Abubedu, thank you very much for bringing us those details. And you're still watching News Desk.